Hello everyone, this is Christine, aka Dr. Simple Budgets, and I am here to provide you with a psychology video while I work on my September planner. September's around the corner. I'm having a wonderful, wonderful August birthday month. By the time you see this video go up, I will be on my way to a concert. I'm actually going to see Kai from EXO. My daughter got me into K-pop back in 2017, and EXO became my number one group, and they still are my number one group. So I'm going to see Kai, and I'm happy about that. Canceled my camping trip because we had a major heat wave here in Southern California, and that's just not a safe thing to do. So, unfortunately, I was not able to go camping, and still, here I am. So, I wanted to end the month by bringing you this video on psychology. My topic today combines both a debt confession with a psychology topic. And I think I will go ahead and call this video My Journey with Student Loan Debt and Self-Efficacy. All right, so if student loan debt is something that is on the forefront of your mind, and you like to learn more about the psychology around debt, budgeting, saving, then please like and subscribe to this video and subscribe to my channel because I do these psychology videos at least once a month. Okay, so let's talk about my journey with student loan debt. Obviously, I am a doctor, and so, I have a lot of student loan debt. I have debt from when I did my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, although that debt wasn't much compared to the debt that I incurred while I was doing my doctoral program at the University of Southern California. And mostly it's because I had ups and downs with employment and I would defer it. And in some cases, I would defer it for like 2 years or like a combination of 2 years of deferment on a very high loan with a good amount of interest. So here is my debt confession, everyone. After all that interest accrued and I did a deferment, came back, paid the minimum, which the minimum barely even covers the interest, and then did another deferment, my loan completely ballooned out of control. And I never thought that I would see the number $201,000. You heard me right, everyone. $201,000. I never thought I'd see that number attached to my name. But there it is. My student loan balance, whenever I open up my loan servicer, which is Aidvantage, and I see that number, it stares back at me like a weight that I feel like I can never, ever lift at my age. I did my last degree when I was in my mid-40s, and now I'm in my mid-50s. And again, up until now, I had only been paying the minimum payments, which don't even keep up with the interest that it was accruing. For a brief moment at the end of last year and this year, I felt hope when $47,000 of that was forgiven under the SAVE Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, because I've always worked in public service, and it lowered my debt to $154,000. And I thought that I could finally begin to breathe again. I flushed money down the drain when I was making those minimum payments. And, well, then came the automatic forbearance that happened this year and all the bad news. That program was denied by our current administration. Well, I will say not our current administration. Our current administration brought it to Congress, and Congress denied it. So that meant that $47,000 brought my total balance back to $201,000 that I owe now, and I cannot get out of it. Not only that, but the interest would start back up again in September 2025, which, as you all know, is just a few days away from now. The shock of this is crushing, and I began to wonder what would happen to me and my lifestyle. And I felt extremely guilty. I felt guilty for borrowing so much. I felt guilty for letting myself end up here, guilty for not figuring it out sooner. And with all that guilt came a wave of low self-efficacy. Had I really believed that I could manage this, or had I just set myself up for failure? So, what is self-efficacy? Well, self-efficacy is the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situations or an accomplished task. So it shapes how we approach our challenges. And it also shapes how much effort we put into those challenges and how long we persist in the face of setbacks. But in that moment that money that wasn't forgiven anymore came back, I realized my belief in my own ability began slipping. So the guilt was very heavy, and at first it worked against me. I felt very helpless, as though no matter what I did, those numbers would never move. And I found myself wanting to avoid looking at my statements or even thinking about my loans. So, I didn't want to feel that knot in my stomach. And I began to ruminate and replay my past decisions, like, why did I choose to go to USC? Why did I choose that program? Why didn't I pay more when I had the higher income than I do right now? All that kind of guilt was very destructive, and it chipped away at my confidence, and it made me question whether I could get out of this hole or not. And so here's where research really resonated with me. Guilt is not inherently bad for self-efficacy, but its effect really depends on how the guilt is being processed. So if guilt leads to excessive self-criticism and avoidance, it undermines your confidence and your motivation. But if guilt leads to positive action and gentler self-reflection, it can usually enhance self-efficacy. So looking back, I see how guilt almost completely derailed me. If I had let it fester, it would have weakened my self-efficacy. It would have led me into avoidance and despair. And that's a place I've been before with my finances. And I never want to go back there again, because in this case, maybe I would have even filed for bankruptcy. But that is so much against who I am as a person. And so by choosing to process my guilt more constructively, I transformed it into a tool for my growth and my courage. So I realized that I had a choice. I could drown in guilt, or I could simply acknowledge it and use it constructively. And so here's what I mean by that. Constructive guilt meant acknowledging the mistakes I'd made, taking responsibility, and asking myself, what can Christine do now? So I used my guilt as motivation for improvement. I couldn't erase the debt, but I could create a plan. And through self-reflection, I recognized that I needed to change how I manage money. And that's when I turned to my cash budgeting methods that I started earlier this year. They gave me control without sacrificing my lifestyle. And most importantly, I learned that I needed to get into a growth mindset, even in the face of all this debt. And that reminded me that mistakes didn't define me, and this debt wasn't proof of failure, it was a challenge. And challenges can be overcome. I thought I was going to have to pay at least $1,500 to $2,000 a month. There's no way I could do that. I thought I would have to get a second job or figure out how to lower my rent. I was ready to swallow that really hard pill and do whatever it took, though. But through careful budgeting and figuring out the income-based repayment plan, I found a repayment path that worked for me. So it turned out that 3% decrease in my pay back in July that I was whining about, it actually helped me under the income-based repayment plan. And guess what, everyone? My monthly payment is set at $416. But I've decided that I'm going to pay $425 each month, just a little bit extra, but enough to show myself that I am not powerless in this situation. So the agreement I have with my loan servicer is very clear. As long as I report my income and pay each month without fail for the next 10 years, the loan will be forgiven, which is just in time for retirement with a golden credit score. And that is my finish line, everyone. That is my finish line. So this cash stuffing journey over the last 7 months has taught me to be totally transparent with myself, and also that guilt can go two ways. If my guilt is left unchecked, it causes avoidance and rumination and a loss of confidence. But if I pair it with some self-compassion toward myself and I proceed constructively and proactively, that same guilt can sharpen my focus. It can fuel my perseverance and actually strengthen my self-efficacy. At this moment, my $201,000 student loan debt no longer feels like a life sentence. It's just a structured challenge, and it's one that I now know and believe that I can face head on. So, 10 years, $425 or more a month, forgiveness at the end. And most importantly, the belief that I can do this, and I will do this. So that is my debt confession and my story about my journey with student loan debt and self-efficacy. Luckily for me, I don't have any private loans. So if anything terrible ever happens to me, the loans go away. They don't, go to my children. But of course, I want to get all of this paid off before I hit retirement so that nothing affects my children. I want to be the most present person in my retirement to my children and potentially even grandchildren one day, maybe, that I might have. And my goal is to be completely debt-free. I have a few things that I'll be working on between now and the 10-year mark. Obviously, the student loan debt is the longest held debt that I will be paying off. I do plan on getting a new car in about 3 years, and that will be my last car, and I plan on having that car paid off by the time I retire as well. And to be honest with you, I don't have to retire at age 65. I calculated it at my job. They have a cool calculator, and it turns out if I just push it another 2 years, I'm going to have a very, very good retirement income. So I think I will plan on working till I am 67 years old. And then, that is my goal, everyone. $201,000 is never going to stop Dr. Simple budgets. And I hope that huge amounts of debts do not make you feel completely frozen, paralyzed, and incapacitated. I do hope that you process any feelings that you have, especially of guilt, and avoid any excessive self-criticism of yourself, and instead turn it into self-compassion and move on constructively. Allow that to sharpen your focus and light a fire under you to say, you know what? This is just another challenge, and I know challenges. I can face challenges. And then get proactive and call who you need to call, email who you need to email, talk to who you need to talk to. Get into your budget. Change the line items. Sacrifice in places where you need to sacrifice. It's going to be extremely hard for me because also our return to work orders, whereas I thought we wouldn't have to go back until next year, well, guess what? I have to go back in October. So the parking fees, the gas increase in my budget, all of those things. But you know what? I am a person who, as long as I know the game I'm playing and the rules of the game, I can play and win the game. So as long as I know what my numbers are, I can figure out what is going to be expected of me, and I can work it out without really changing my lifestyle. One of the things I decided to do was, get out of debt a little bit faster. I do have one more piece of debt that's about $1,000, and you know what? I'm going to get rid of it so that I can make room for the student loan and the going back to work in the month of October, which is when all of this really starts. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to me and listening to my debt confession, as well as I hope that you learned something today about self-efficacy and how it plays a role into the psychology of budgeting. September's here, so let's get ready together, everyone. Please enjoy my video. Please like and subscribe. And I will see you on, when will I see you? I will see you this weekend. I will post another video this weekend, and then we'll start Tiny Tuesdays for the month of September as well. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your August and your September. And until then, stay psyched for saving, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.